Hey friends, after watching your Flipgrids, I wanted to just reiterate some things so that you're not confused about like similes and metaphors, because I was getting some Flipgrids that had figurative language, but it wasn't actually figurative language. One great example would be even if you see the word as in a sentence, that does not make it a simile. So remember, it has to have a comparison between two things using the word like or as to be a simile. So for an example, my dog is as big as a horse. So using the word is as big as a horse would make it the simile because you're comparing two things. Along with a metaphor, saying my dog is a horse is saying that it is as big as a horse, but he's not saying the word like or as, so that would make it a metaphor. So just a reminder about those two things, because even if it has the word as in a sentence, does not make it a simile unless it's comparing something. Another thing that I noticed was that an alliteration has to have 2 or 3 words that have the same beginning sound. So it doesn't have to be the same letter, it just has to have the same sound. So it could be like a K or a C as long as it's both making the K sound, or it could be like a C and an S as long as it's making the S sound. So it doesn't always have to be the letters, it just has to be the sounds. Personification is any thing that is being given human characteristics. So it doesn't always have to be an animal. Sometimes we think about an animal when we think about movies and TV shows, but it could also be talking about the rain or the wind. Anything that's given human characteristics. So the wind is singing. Singing is something that humans do, so that's where that personification comes in. Person is the beginning of that word, so that's how you can remember that that's giving something human characteristics. Looking at hyperbole, it has to be an extreme exaggeration. So not just something that can't happen, it has to be an exaggeration of something. So like, I'm starving to death is usually the one that I'm looking, the example that I usually use, because it doesn't always mean that you are starving, it just means that you're really, really hungry. So the other one, idiom, that's a little bit of a harder one. We sometimes see it in our reading books, but remember, it has to be a saying that doesn't actually mean what it's saying. So it's raining cats and dogs, things like that. What else am I missing? Imagery, that's pretty an easy one. That's what you'll mostly see in your books, because you want to have detail and you want to be able to see what's happening in your story. Is that all of them? Oh, onomatopoeia, that's an easy one. That's just any sound. So I noticed a lot of you were using Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and those usually have a lot of onomatopoeias in them. So I hope that this kind of helps reiterate, especially that simile and metaphor thing, so that when you go today to look at some poems, you're able to easily find the figurative language.